Hi there, this is Josh from Literary Gladiators, and today I'm here with my TBR. This month I plan on reading 5 books, 2 of which are buddy reads, one of which is a review copy from Salems Lot Publications, one of which I won in a Goodreads giveaway, and the other one is something that I want to finish. I don't know how many I'm going to get to, but always worth trying. Alrighty, let's begin. The first thing that I'm going to be picking up after I finish Independent People, which I mentioned in the wrap-up video, is the book that Salems Lot Publications, which is a publishing company that translates Slavic literature, which I highly admire the fact that publishing companies are making the effort to translate works from other countries so that people from across the globe have the opportunity to read and enjoy works from other countries without having to necessarily know the country's language. Salems Lot Publications sent me a review copy of They sent me review copies of a few books, and I'm going to read and review this month Moscow in the 1930s by Natalia Gromova and translated by Christopher Culver. And Moscow in the 1930s explores the artistic, but more so the literary scene in the time and place, which Moscow in the 1930s was a high-rise in the Stalinist era. Stalin had a great threshold on the country, and much of the art was not approved unless it highly championed what Stalin was and stood for. And there were plenty of writers during the Russian era. I know one was Osip Mandelstam, who I have a collection of his poetry that I need to get to. How he was a poet that ended up in the gulags of Russia, and he would end up getting killed there. He ended up dying in these gulags. But some of the names that are mentioned on the back of the cover are Olga Bessarabova, Maria Belkina, and Lydia Lebedinskaya. And it also mentions Leonid Andreevyev. And I'm really curious to see what kind of notebooks and letters that this particular author brings up in this particular work. And I'm really curious to see what this has in store, and I hope to give it an honest review, and hopefully it's a positive one. On Goodreads, in late August, early September, I won 3 Goodreads giveaways, which I'm quite ecstatic about, and I also won a 4th one just a few days ago. And one of the books, the first one to arrive, was something that I'm really excited to get to, and that is the early stories of Truman Capote. And I watched a movie called Infamous, where Toby Jones starred as Capote. People are more familiar with the movie called Capote, where Philip Seymour Hoffman played the role of Truman Capote, but I thought that Toby Jones became Truman Capote, the way that he became Karl Rove in W. But these stories were written during his teenage years and in his early 20s, before the works that we're more familiar with, like Breakfast at Tiffany's and In Cold Blood. And I'm really inclined to read about what it is that he explores in his literature, and I'm definitely going to give this a review when I'm done. Next two books that I'm going to talk about are my buddy reads for the month of October. The first one is something that I'm really, really excited to get to, but in a more, it's a more poignant work, and it's bound to strike an emotion, and that is He Wanted the Moon by Meanie Baird. I mentioned this in my River Road Books book haul. He was looking for a cure and ways to treat manic depression while he himself was suffering from a manic depression that would ultimately eat away at his life and kill him. And his daughter continues with the research that he was going about with, and putting together an account of what he was trying to accomplish. And he faded away after his death, but his daughter is looking to inject the well-deserving legacy that this man holds. When I brought this up on my channel, I saw that Kate from Kate File was really interested in this. She said that this sparked her interest. She added it right on her Goodreads as a book that she wants to read. And so I asked if she wanted to do a buddy read of this book, and she accepted, so we plan on reading this later in the month. Next thing I plan to read is Punish the Sinners by John Saul. And I'm really looking forward to getting into this because I read When the Wind Blows and Suffer the Children prior, and When the Wind Blows is a really horrific work in the way that it really caught my attention and made me continue to zip right through the work at hand. And Suffer the Children, which I read last year, gave me such an uneasy feeling. And it really, his works really spark a reaction. He identifies as a thriller writer, but I see a lot of reflections of horror fiction. I'm going to read off the back of the cover to tell you what this is about, because I think that you get more out of it that way. And here it goes. Italy, 1252. Inquisition, accusation, fear, torture, the guilty and the innocent dying for sins, real and imagined, in the flames of the burning stake. Neilsville, 1978, which is when the book was written and published. Peter Balsam has come to the sleepy desert town to teach its youth and finds a mystery of mounting horror. Something is happening to the young girls of St. Francis Xavier High School. Something evil. In bloodlet and terror, a suicide contagion has swept the town, while a dark order of its holy men enacts a secret medieval ritual. Is hysteria manipulating these innocent children into violent self-destruction? Or has a supernatural force, a 13th century madness, returned to punish the sinners? And that's what it looks like on the back of the cover. Punish the sinners. It's identical to the title on the front, but it seems like a strong enough statement in itself. And after reading that snippet, I feel that this is going to be a work of religious horror in the way that reflects works like The Exorcist, and also the idea of how it is affecting the youth of the community and how that is bound to get under one's skin. But plenty of authors like Saul and Dean Koontz have explored children and their role in horror fiction. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Julie from A Girl in a Book. Since Julie has been on BookTube, she's always said how she wants to get into reading more horror fiction and how it really catches her attention. And she's brought up reading Dean Koontz, Stephen King, some other newer writers like Josh Malerman. But I wanted to introduce her to some horror writers that are frequently overlooked but have been highly admired by readers of the genre, especially those who are great enthusiasts. So I wanted to get her into a John Saul novel, and I thought this one was something that caught my attention, and hopefully the same can be said for Julie. And if I have time left in the month, I hope to read and complete Salem's Lot by Stephen King. I read this first about 10 years ago when I was in 8th grade. And it didn't necessarily stick with me. But now I'm returning to it and hoping that I get a greater reaction to the story at hand. And at this point, I'm really liking how Stephen King is dipping into the vampire genre. And this is his original attempt at doing so. Alrighty. This is everything I have planned for the month of October. Last year I primarily concentrated on horror fiction, but this month it's going to be a great hodgepodge because of the review copies, the giveaway victories, and the fact that I want to get into some buddy reads. And so hodgepodge it is. Thank you for tuning into this TBR video. I hope you're reading something good this month. And if you wanted to, feel free to share what it is you plan to read this month. And for now, keep reading.